Hey everybody, BTO Pro here. Burning the midnight oil. It's milestone time though, so yeah, let's see what this does now. So we've mentioned the board before, right? I can insert things, neat. And then we've hit buttons before, and we've gone and said like, hey, throw in YouTube. And then we throw in YouTube. That's pretty awesome. I'm not going to discount that stuff. But let's say I don't know what the YouTube video is. Or let's say I have media and I don't know, I want to go look at my media. All right, everybody has media from somewhere. So because it's not wired up to between the two, because we're going to refactor this a bit to accomplish it, I'm going to click in the front part of this green bar. It's going to trigger a modal to open. So let's refresh demo there so we don't have any of that stuff. It's going to open up this modal. It's going to say insert an item. You see I have at the moment three tabs. It's going to just be 2 in the end here, and it's going to have some serious UX cleanup. But so imagine we default to select, and then I could either do a link, which I put in my link here, have it show up there, upload, which I don't have enabled yet, browse, which is what I spent all day on. So browse, you see, now I have 3 options here. I have My Media, and I have a little search thing. It says Search Elms Media, which we'll talk in a second. I got YouTube, I got Vimeo. So I'm going to search My Media first. I'm going to search for something I know exists, and this pops up. I'm going to click on that, and now it's in the page. And what the heck just happened there? So, a lot of things, but let's not stop there. Let's search YouTube. Elms has a lot of videos on YouTube, so let's throw in an Elms video. Let's move it up above that one. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Need to mess with the UX there. You know what? I actually like Vimeo too, so let's look for some cats on Vimeo. It's got to be something funny with cats. There we go. Microsoft Screensaver. Now we got a video in from Vimeo. You know what? I like the primary color to be purple in this case. And now that primary color is purple. Actually, this was supposed to go up above there. Hell, let's duplicate it. Let's make that right justified for no reason. Make it a little teeny. And this one we'll make 100% center. Nope, now drop it down to nothing. All right, you get the idea. I can manipulate this stuff. So, this has YouTube, Vimeo integration. You can integrate with APIs. Whoop-de-frickin' do, right? But one, the event propagation's really fast, which is pretty stinking awesome. I can hit, disable that board, and now I've got my content, right? So this is the whole goal of hacks to me is reach out, touch stuff, work on it very quickly, exact intention of what you plan on doing, and be able to streamline the process of both media production and media integration. So why am I freaking out? Other than that, it's, if you haven't seen this before, it's new to you. So let's see how those get there, though, for those options, because this is not something that requires Elms Media or Elms to work. So, I have a username and password here. This is for a local VM. I don't care, so don't even bother telling me. But so this is our demo page, and so our demo. The code for our demo page. If you imagine this is like your app that you would build that's hax capable. So any hax capable thing is basically going to have, it's going to have 3 elements at the moment. In the end, it'll have 4. And so we have a hax body, which is the thing I can click and edit the stuff. I could inject this stuff from somewhere, right? So maybe it's some legacy content I've already written. A hax panel, which is this fly out thing. Okay. Hax-manager, which is the pop-up. And then there's this little thing, which is hax-manager source. And a hax-manager source is a tag that is able to throttle this entire board down here. So all of this is one tag that we're just passing parameters into to generate a different result. So, for example, I've got that there. Where did this come from? If it requires an exact match right now. Well, it's a JSON feed, so I can search for the title of other things because it doesn't do partial matches yet. But if it was this DSC, right? This is, imagine this is my own custom JSON feed of data that I'm hitting. And so then I can insert that. Because this is just a tag that knows how to talk to stuff and generate a media browser, you could wire that up to anything. That could be, Kaltura, that could be your own custom company media system, whatever. The point is, it streamlines the integration and UX of getting that stuff from where it was into the Hax content. So the way it's doing that, this tag will change, but just the basic idea, if you're interested. Call to action is the thing that's on the bar, and so that's this search Elms media thing, right? Then we have, in this case, we have a username and password. Obviously, for a production thing, you wouldn't have that, but just, to get test data, a lot of times you're going to have dummy stuff, so it's good for that. An endpoint to hit. So in this case, it's going to hit this path at, local address, no JSON. It's going to mix in some parameters, like an empty title. And then we've got, what's the query parameter? So the query parameter for my own local system is title. Okay. That is what binds this to the query. So put that in, and it's going to execute the query, and it shows up there. So I can look at the XHRs, and I can see that it just went and queried for that. I can see my response that comes across, yada, yada, yada. Then we've got a response map. So basically what this tag is able to do is normalize an unknown structure of JSON data into something that it can then present in a meaningful way. So if whatever your media, asset management solution or video server or whatever, it's the other thing. It doesn't have, this isn't specifically crafted towards video at the moment, or images or any one location. Yeah, it says YouTube and Vimeo, and I'll step through those in a sec. But the big deal here is that these can be wired up to talk to anything very easily. So as long as you have an ID and a URL and a title and a description, and that's not even required really, and an image, that is enough detail to generate this unique little grid here of items. And so long as whatever your endpoint has those, it doesn't matter the structure of them, and here we'll prove it. So this is what YouTube looks like. Effectively, anyone could copy and paste this tag, and I think we're actually going to change it to like a hax-source tag or something, or hax-source browser or something like that. But anyone could copy and paste that and swap out my developer key here, which is just used for searching. It's not going to get you anything, with theirs, and now they've got the ability to query YouTube videos and dump that in anywhere. And so it takes request parameters. So in this case, these are the request parameters required in order to get data back appropriately from YouTube. And then for the normalizer, so we'll see in this case, I had to hit list. So imagine if my data feed was like data.list.item1 title, and that's actually the title of that image or whatever. I'm searching on it because of the two-way data binding between those two things effectively. And then I'm presenting it by skimming down through the data. So you'll see here, field image URL. It's not like super happy normalized data, but if I look for field image, I can find that there are things in this feed that are field image, and then I can find a URL. So that's what it's hitting as to what its source is. In the case of YouTube, you can see it comes across, I need an ID, which is, your XYZ, blah, 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 for a YouTube video. Well, that's actually stored in items, and then an array of whatever, item 1, ID.video ID. And now that gets normalized to ID, and I can present it in a nice, happy card format. Same with title, same with description, same with image. Well, guess what? Pretty much any asset management system is going to have these 4 things. And so we can normalize and pull back anything in the same way. So here's Vimeo, right? If I'm going to search Vimeo, I'm going to hit their API, again, an access token that's read-only. I'm going to sort it alphabetically, only give me things that are Creative Commons, only give me 12 of them. Query, in this case, is the thing to do the two-way data binding to. And then In this case, I don't have a URL because they don't have an ID for their videos. It's actually like the whole address of their video, which is kind of weird. But I look in, like response.data, and then there's the items. I actually prefer the Vimeo API response data, even if YouTube's is faster. But so you can see link, name, description, and then even you can get pretty complex with how deep these can dig and figure out what it is. So it's pictures.sizes.0.link. In fact, if I make that 1 instead of 0, I bet I'll get a higher res image. I can't guarantee I haven't tested that. So link, browse, Vimeo, cats. All right, that is definitely higher resolution than it was previously, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, this is a pretty huge architectural leap for us. Another one, I will say, because another issue that this solves is dumping that video or whatever it was. Another issue this solves is this basically gives us our design, user UX patterns for this. So the next thing that we'll start working towards as I clean this up a bit is I would select one of these, and instead of just dumping it in, that it would actually drop you to this configure screen, dump in a placeholder of it there, and then it's going to read off the settings that are from the video. So right there we can see these settings are coming in from Hax properties. Well, if I know the tag to place down into the DOM, and I see like, hey, this is, let's switch to YouTube because we can do that because it's just a video tag. I can then take this same thing that's generating the properties here, and let's say that we use it that when we would click settings, maybe we have less properties in the bar. We have, click settings instead of settings, says configure, and configure opens up here, and we take those things and dump them in here with a live preview updating with the form fields that we put in. So the elements themselves are going to dictate to Hax how Hax should modify them. And then Hax is basically just your UX patterns so that users can make sense of it. We're going to boil things down. At the moment, it looks like it's going to be 4 tags is about what you would need in your app. And that's mostly just for design flexibility. So we could layer all this into one tag and just have a ton of inputs. I would prefer to keep it broken into some logical chunks. So if someone wanted to didn't want to use our hax-manager or didn't want to use our hax-manager source thing, then they wouldn't have to. As long as you kind of have some uniform events that bubble up, then it would still work. So I think another really important point with this, if you want to play with it and see more, if you go to webcomponents.org, at the moment it's the first one there, but you can check out Hax Body, and then you can hit to go to the demo. And the demo is fully functioning with the exception of my media. It's going to say Elms Media, but this isn't going to do anything for you because that's, you're not running a local server with those credentials. But I could then go to, the same YouTube one, type it in. And so you can actually, jump in and start playing with this and see how this works, give us feedback. This is, as the name implies, this is a headless authoring experience. And this, I hope illustrates that this is being developed completely in a vacuum here. So, this whole thing is running just off of a bunch of HTML on the page. It's not bound to Elms Learning Network. Much, in the same regard that like our modules we use that are, that bleed over into the Drupal universe, those are not bound to Elms Learning Network for the most part. Those work in any Drupal system. So very exciting because this stuff is, we're going to be able to quickly get these things wired into like Grav CMS, for example, as I wrote the web components module for that, into, Backdrop, into Drupal 6 technically. Once Drupal 8 gets a ported version of the web components module, then you could start having this type of UX pattern there. So I mean, system agnostic, experience for design and creation of this material is going to be absolutely ridiculous. I think where I feel like we're just getting off into crazy land a little bit is we've started we're going to start wiring this into everything. you're not going to be able to stop us. Like, we have A-frame, an A-frame player. So if we take A-frame and we kind of wrapper it, so just to see what that looks like. If we wrap A-frame, right? So this is, if you're familiar with what A-frame lets you do 3D in the browser. You point to a file and you can do like some little augmented reality stuff. It's pretty sweet. But we've wired this up to Polymer so we can do data binding to A-frame, which means we can make a much more simple, kind of mostly containerized tag. It's hard to contain A-frame fully, but you notice we can then, if it's a custom element, we can use hax to edit it. So imagine if instead of, you fly this out and I say we hit a button, and instead of saying YouTube, what if this said that new 3D universe that Google just pumped out? I can't remember the name of it right this minute. Well, we're wiring this into hax. You'll be able to dump an A-frame tag, or select a 3D object that you've queried from a website that it took us one tag to integrate with that endpoint. And then we're going to be able to generate, augmented reality things in the browser that reference stuff from Google's, free open source community for 3D development. And then we're going to be able to manipulate it and lay it out in hax and just hit save and have it. That's like almost zero cost of production to do that. The other thing that's being kind of bounced around on the team is Elms. The stuff when I showed it in Elms, it doesn't have this tab. But let's say we had an export button, and this is basically the equivalent when you hit save in Elms. It's doing this, but I just to visualize it for people. So I hit export. It's going to take what's on the board, strip out all the hack stuff, and then here you go. So, this is a purely like as if you had written it, HTML and, the references to the custom elements in the exact way that you put them in the page. So, to prove that, it says YouTube right now. If I go and we edit this, and we're going to add secondary color, purple, caption, and we're going to change this link to be Vimeo of some kind. Make it a smaller picture or whatever. Cool. Now we fire this up. You see the source is now pointing to Vimeo, and it's also got the additional changes that I had made in there, including the caption being set to just a bunch of random text. So, we're also envisioning that you could use this as just like a standalone website, basically. It is, headless. And obviously you wouldn't be able to tap into your own media if we did that, but you would be able to have like an import button then. You could hit import, and in that, just standalone player, paste a whole bunch of HTML in here, and then, hit resume or whatever, and it would inject it, much like in Elms when it loads a page, and then you could just start manipulating your content that way. If you're a hardcore developer, that probably doesn't sound like it's super useful, but there's a ton of people that don't have access to these types of systems. They don't have access to content management systems. They don't have access to some of the more advanced tools that we're pushing out. So even just, as a Dreamweaver replacement, that you can build really sophisticated things. Think of it kind of like a building out and massaging HTML of a page, and then if we just add on in the exports those, here's the things to import to make this work, right, and reference all the HTML imports, kind of like CodePen does, then you could run this as a static web page. Heck, we could even have like a click and download button, to take it with you sort of deal. So we're trying to really illustrate how flexible and, completely headless this approach really is. So thanks for following along if you got to this point. Going to just keep working on it over the next week and hope to have some more videos out really soon.